the way you think about and the way you address issues of race, that can scare you because you're not quite sure what you'll learn about yourself. And you're sitting down with people, even close colleagues, making yourself vulnerable when you talk about things that are that important. It's not sitting around talking about the weather or things that are in the news. This is important stuff. I'd say the thing that was most profoundly affected me was hearing others in the room share the way they experienced everyday life that was different than the way I experienced everyday life. I'm not experiencing every day in the simple choices that I make about going shopping, in applying for jobs, in listening to feedback from students or colleagues. I don't perceive, and I haven't had to feel threat or an effect on myself due to my race.
So as an organization, as staff has told me very positively, they appreciate the beginning of the conversation. The dialogue in itself has been very enriching. That's connected even some staff. I think it's also made some staff uncomfortable, which is a good thing. I encourage, especially within Dayton, that has, we have been gifted with such a high percentage of diversity within our city. I think that we could and have easily had aha moments where when you sit down and talk with each other, and it doesn't have to be something as difficult as race, though what you really do see is that maybe some of the questions and the fear and the anxiety really has more to do with not having a safe platform to connect and to ask questions and to constructively debate.
Miami Valley Hospital, for example, was pretty much of an East Side hospital. And as you know, in Dayton, there's the East Side and the West Side. And over time, especially as we talked about the closing of St. Elizabeth's, the customer base in Miami Valley changed fairly dramatically. But beyond that, there was clearly a need for dialogue among people of divergent backgrounds. We always felt that it was important that our employee base reflect our customer base, so that when people of diverse backgrounds would come into the hospital, that they would have people that they could relate to. I used to think that things would grow organically or naturally in this arena, but after hard experience, I've learned that it's got to be top down, that there's not necessarily a natural inclination for organizations to grasp this concept. So you start with your board of trustees and your executive team, and you have to, more importantly than anything, identify key leadership people who view this as a mission. And I think once you do that, then the people within the organization understand that, hey, this is important. This isn't something that somebody's just doing to go through the motions.
One of the concerns that I had that I thought we needed to do a better job of addressing, and most law schools probably feel the same way, are issues relating to race. How can you have a law school and you don't really talk about race in a very meaningful way? I felt safe, but I will admit that I entered the room with the intent of being guarded. To sit in a room with my colleagues, I kept thinking, I'm gonna have to see you tomorrow. But what I thought was so telling about the experience, at least for the three of us from the School of Law, were the conversations that even took place afterwards, letting us know that we were leaving this experience still thinking long and hard about our own personal experiences, what we had learned from one another, and thinking about that in the context of the law school. So I think we controlled our emotions, but I definitely think it was a very honest, raw, and meaningful conversation for all of us. So it was no crying and hollering and screaming, "You're wrong." We were all ready to listen and receive what others had to say. How can you train someone to be a leader and not talk about issues of race, diversity in this country?
One of the things that's really appealing about the Dayton Dialogues on Race Relations is that it's an opportunity to explore race and the issues that you otherwise would not have the reason or the cause or the opportunity to talk about. Talking about race can be extraordinarily painful. extraordinarily uncomfortable. Talking about race can be extraordinarily disconcerting. It could be attached with, that's an unpleasant thing. It brings up unpleasant memories of an unpleasant history. Why focus on those negative things, some people might say. One of the great things about the Dayton Dialogue on Race Relations is it gives you a structured experience and a safe place for a number of people to come together and to discuss issues that really matter to people.
If we can't talk about race, then what happens is we're left with assumptions. I might assume what you feel, you might assume what I feel. So that doesn't build trust, but it allows mistrust to actually take hold. Because you're always going into a setting like this, there's this apprehension of, will I say the wrong thing? Will I do the wrong thing? Will I come on too strong? Will I offend someone else? But what I quickly realized is that with the dialogue, you can't say or do the wrong thing. The facilitators create the atmosphere where you can be honest, you can be open, you can be candid, and that's really the expectation, because from my perspective, it really helps people to learn about you and your perspectives, and helps you to learn about their perspectives when everybody's open and honest and really invested in the process.